In the second year of secretly loving Julian Gu, I suddenly heard the news that he had gone blind and his girlfriend had also left. So, I pretended to be his ex-girlfriend and brought him to my home to take care of him. He was handsome, and when he got emotional, he would shed tears, making me fall deeper and deeper in love, unable to pull myself away. It wasn't until I met a mutual friend who mentioned Julian that the friend asked in confusion, "When did Julian go blind?" "We were just drinking together last night." The story began in the second year of my secret crush on Julian Gu, when I suddenly heard he had a girlfriend, and my heart shattered into pieces. Yet, just a few days later he was in a car accident and lost his sight. I followed some other people to the hospital to visit him. Something this major happened, yet his girlfriend was nowhere to be found. I heard the nurse say that for the past few days, he had to hire a caregiver, with no one staying by his side, as his family was abroad. Naturally, I felt even more sorry for him. With such a handsome face, even if he was blind, looking at him every day was still a beautiful sight. Just then, the nurse suddenly asked me, "How are you related to him?" I was about to explain when I saw Julian walking out of the hospital room. His eyes were still wrapped in thick gauze, unable to see the path. He walked unsteadily and almost fell into my arms. I naturally caught him, helping him stand firm. The nurse smiled with a hint of meaning. "Is this the girlfriend you mentioned? Her voice sounds familiar, so it turns out it is her. Why visit only now?" I was stunned. It turned out my voice was very similar to his ex-girlfriend's. So, could it be? I couldn't help but have some crooked thoughts, but I still had my principles and boundaries. How could I deceive someone? But Julian immediately gripped my hand tightly, his voice full of surprise and a bit of grievance. "You came to visit me." He always appeared cold. Yet now he was like a large puppy in need of comfort, and my heart felt like it was melting. His girlfriend really was lucky. To calm him down, I reluctantly admitted to being his girlfriend. I thought to myself that I would wait until he removed the gauze and his eyes recovered to normal, then I would explain the truth to him clearly. Unexpectedly, even until he was discharged, he still couldn't see things clearly. His dark eyes became lifeless, losing their focus. I waved my hand in front of his face, but he had no reaction. I was preparing to take him home. But he hugged me tightly in a helpless manner. Tears rolled down from the bridge of his high nose. His eyes were red. "Do you want to abandon me again? Don't cry. It's not good for your eyes." I reached out to wipe the tears from under his eyes. However, he grabbed my wrist tightly. "Don't leave me, okay? I have a house, I have savings. I'll give it all to you. I won't become a burden to you." I knew he had a high-end apartment in the city center with a very high market value, but if I wanted to take him there, I didn't know the address, so I had to grit my teeth and ask. He still blamed me for sulking and refusing to live with him, his eyes looking both aggrieved and resentful, and he even told me to remember it myself. The car drove around in circles 3 times on the road, wasting all my gas money. Unable to take it anymore, I drove directly to my own home. It was a dilapidated old house far from the city center. I had saved up for years working, plus money from my parents, to barely afford it. It was small but fully equipped. He refused to go to his home, so he would have to stay with me. When I parked the car, out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly saw my childhood friend, Sam Joe. My mother must have asked him to bring things over for me again. As soon as I got out of the car, he greeted me immediately. Hearing another man's voice, Julian instantly became alert, opened the car door and followed behind me. Sam saw him and frowned. "Jen. Why is there someone else in the car?" Julian's soulless eyes flashed with a cold light when he heard the voice. I couldn't help but look closely at those beautiful eyes a few more times. They were still as lifeless as before, making me wonder if I had seen it wrong. "I am her boyfriend." Julian tried to determine the direction of my voice and then squeezed my hand tightly, affirming his identity. Since losing his sight, he had always been anxious and insecure. At this moment, perhaps because the person in front of him was a man, he was even more insecure. Sam and I grew up together and were neighbors since childhood. My mother liked him very much and even hoped he would become her son-in-law. But who could make a move on a childhood friend they grew up with? Someone as close as a sister. Sam knew I still didn't have a boyfriend and was about to ask more. I was afraid of being exposed and hurting Julian's heart, so I hurriedly interrupted him. Being blinded by a car accident and abandoned by his girlfriend, if he met a scammer now, I didn't know how much of a blow he would suffer. I hurriedly reassured Julian, stuffed him back into the car, and pulled Sam away to explain that this was a close colleague of mine who was blinded in a car accident and had no home to return to. So I brought him back to take care of him. I told him not to tell my mother. Lately, she kept urging me to go on blind dates. If she knew about this, I didn't know what would happen. Sam looked at the car doubtfully and reminded me to send him away quickly. A man in my house was really not safe at all. But Julian was already blind. Between him and me, it was uncertain who was more unsafe. Finally, I managed to send Sam away. I suddenly remembered that Sam had called my name earlier, but Julian didn't seem to recognize it. I tentatively asked him how he usually called me. Jen. His voice was gentle. Suddenly hearing him call my intimate name, I was startled for a moment but quickly realized it was just a heavier intonation. That was good too, otherwise, I would have to waste time explaining this matter. He asked me for paper and a pen again. I gave them to him in confusion. Then I saw him fumbling to write 6 crooked numbers, pursing his lips as he said, "This is my bank card password." Why was he so unsuspecting that he wouldn't even know if he was being sold? Luckily, I only coveted his looks, not his money. He suddenly sat closer, only a fist's distance away from me, as if I could even hear his heartbeat. "Now that I'm blind, the doctor says he doesn't know when I will recover. You won't despise me, will you?" I seemed to be able to see the helplessness in his heart through this expression. "I heard you tell him that it was only out of pity for me. Is he your ex-boyfriend?" I was just about to say no, but since he asked like that and was so guarded, his ex-girlfriend surely must have had an ex-boyfriend too. Wait until he recovers his sight, we definitely won't have anything to do with each other anymore. I was also too lazy to make up a story for Sam. Facing his cautious probing, I nodded slightly, then suddenly remembered that he was blind now, so how could he see my movement? I was preparing to speak when I saw him turn his head away, the pale yellow light from the chandelier reflecting in his deep brown eyes. "You're lying." One sentence exposed everything. But I hadn't answered yet. How could he hit the nail on the head? "Julian, are your eyes healed?" I looked at him suspiciously. During the time he was in the hospital, I didn't dare to visit too often and had never met the doctor. Thinking back carefully, the fact that his eyes hadn't fully recovered was only said by him personally. "I can only see a dim light, I can't see your face clearly." His face didn't redden, his heart didn't race, and he explained calmly in just a few sentences, looking a bit bewildered that I doubted him. I felt a bit ashamed. Clearly, claiming to be his girlfriend was something I started on my own, so the one who should feel guilty was me. "Sorry, the person with impure intentions is me. I should still take you home." "You are wrong. I should have spoken clearly to you." He tried to reach out again, wanting to touch me. I hurriedly raised my hand and asked him if he needed anything. "Now I can't see your face." He smiled, dimples appearing on his cheeks, beautiful to the point of being breathtaking. "Can I touch your face for a moment? It's been a long time, and I seem to be forgetting your face." I was stunned and bent down to face his expectant gaze. I hoped he wouldn't realize. Reality proved that not only were his eyes blind, but his sense of touch was also disordered, as he completely failed to detect anything unusual. On the contrary, the more he touched, the more he cried. It seemed his ex-girlfriend had hurt him very deeply. I clicked my tongue softly. Even though he was blind, his eyes were still shining. The moment our eyes met, I hurriedly shifted my gaze elsewhere. My phone screen suddenly lit up. It was a message from my best friend Bella. She knew my unrequited love had ended in hopelessness, so she told me to call a few male models to relieve my sorrow. I calmly texted back right in front of Julian. "Sounds good. Wait for me." She always just talked big to make herself feel better. I couldn't bear to expose her, but I still had to meet my friend. "See you at 7. There were still 3 hours until 7 o'clock. I had to quickly take Julian to his home. Even though he was at my house now, he was still lingering on his old love. If the two of them eventually got back together, I would be the biggest fool. I liked him, but if after recovering his sight, he remembered me only as someone who took advantage of his blindness to deceive his feelings, I would surely be very sad. "Let me take you home. My house is a bit small. Not enough room to sleep." I negotiated with him. "Do you want to kick me out? Are you going to meet someone?" He was on high alert. "No, just meeting my best friend." "Is there no one else?" I was bewildered. "No, why do you ask that?" Before I could finish, I heard him sigh and then suddenly hug me from behind. "Last time you also said you were going to meet someone. But after you left, you never came back." Blindness makes people become sensitive and suspicious. But for such a suspicious person not to recognize me was truly a surprise. I stiffened, a faint scent of wood wafting from him. "Don't abandon me again." "All right," I replied perfunctorily. "So, how many people do you plan to meet? Am I not enough?" His warm cheek pressed against my ear. his voice deep and seductive to the point of being enchanting. Through his clothes, I could almost feel the hard muscles hidden beneath. He was definitely stronger than those male models. I couldn't help but compare. Bella always said she would take me to broaden my horizons, but in the end, she always broke her promise. Someday I must force her to fulfill that promise so I have a chance to compare for once. Nuff, I curved my eyes and laughed softly twice. But you still have to go home. Julian's arm around me tightened. Your home is my home. I looked up at the clock. Another hour had passed. My time for makeup was running out. If I didn't wear makeup, how could I go out to meet my best friend? If she really took me to broaden my horizons, I would be overshadowed and look like an ugly duckling. I started to beat around the bush. So let's put it this way, your home is also my home. If you don't let me go to your house, how can we heal our relationship? Sure enough. His eyes lit up. You mean you agree to get back together with me? That depends on your attitude. I drawled, intending to ask a mutual friend about his girlfriend's situation later. Seeing him so stubborn, I decided to reluctantly help him this one time. So finally Julian returned home. Afraid that he might meet with an accident due to his blindness, I saved my number in his emergency contacts and set it to speed dial. I told him I would come back tonight to stay with him. I thought with his clinginess, my phone would ring as soon as I left the house, but until I met my best friend, there were no calls. After all, it was his own home, overly familiar, so the chance of an accident was very low. Sure enough, Bella complained again, I have no money. Wait until I win the lottery and get rich. I'll take you out to play freely. I generously replied. It's okay, maybe the one who gets rich first will be me. She immediately realized something was different about me today, seeing me check my phone every minute, and forced me to confess. I had to tell her Julian's story. Previously, she was the one who helped me find out Julian had a girlfriend. You lied. She frowned, her face full of disbelief. Even you think it's not right. I didn't dare look her in the eye. Remembering that scene, claiming to be his ex-girlfriend stemmed entirely from pity. Thinking it over, I still had to explain clearly soon. I felt increasingly uneasy. Lies are the easiest things to be exposed. If he discovered the inconsistency tonight and kicked me out straight to my face, I would definitely be heartbroken. Julian still hadn't called, so I took the initiative to call him first. After waiting nearly 30 seconds, the other side picked up. A noisy sound came from the other end. Did you go out? I couldn't help but worry. His eyes hadn't fully healed yet. Yeah, I came out to look for you. Julian's voice was as gentle as always. Under the colorful lights wrapped around the plane trees by the road, the lights flickered slowly. I'm even more worried you are blind yet still went out alone. Where are you now? I'll come right away. Ask someone nearby. He asked an older man next to him. Turns out it's a nearby intersection, not far from me, about a 10-minute walk. I hurriedly said goodbye to Bella and ran as fast as I could. Traffic rushed past on the road. When I arrived, he was standing under the colored lights. The bright light shone on his camel coat, looking like a crayon drawing. He stood in a very recognizable spot, exactly as he said on the phone. He was so well behaved. Just like the rabbit I raised when I was little. Unfortunately, no animal I raised lived long. That rabbit died of illness in less than a year. I panted, slowly walking up to him. Julian. I called his name softly. I'm here. Hearing my voice, he turned around, his dark eyelashes drooping, a gentle smile flashing on his lips, gentle as water. I still really liked this look of his, but I had to tell him the truth. A lie cannot be maintained for long. In the movie, Wu Yan, there is a line describing the love of a little fox. Love is possession, destruction, and ruin. Wanting to possess the other person by any means, even if it hurts them, even to the point of mutual destruction. Using lies to get his affection at all costs was not what I wanted. Actually, I lied to you, Mum. He didn't open his mouth, the sound of questioning stuck in his throat. I took a deep breath. My name is Jenny Kian. As in Jenny, I am not your ex-girlfriend. That day at the hospital I just wanted to comfort you so I lied. It's my fault. I'm sorry. Saying everything in one breath, the heavy stone in my heart was finally lifted. He was stunned for a moment. I was prepared to be scolded by him, but when I looked up, I met the same gentle smile on his face. I know. I was also stunned, then reacted immediately. You knew. I'm only blind in my eyes, not in my heart. He pursed his lips. Sorry. I also have a part of the responsibility in this. I felt both angry and amused for a moment. Fine, I won't hold it against you, let's call it even. After speaking, I asked in confusion, why did you deceive me? He lowered his head, the corners of his lips slightly curving up. The neon lights in the distance flickered, like mischievous eyes. Because I like you. I stood rooted to the spot. Before this, I had only met him twice. How could he have any impression of me? Moreover, back then he still had a girlfriend. So, what about your ex-girlfriend? Don't you plan to get back together with her? I asked in confusion. This question seemed to touch his pain, his face looking momentarily sorrowful. 2 years ago she broke up with me right at the engagement ceremony. So he was abandoned, no wonder he had no sense of security. It had been so long, yet my best friend didn't have any updated news. He hesitatingly asked, I hurriedly cut him off. Consider it as you being sick. I can temporarily take care of you for a while. One cannot be too eager. I intended to let him feel a bit of coldness. Is it just because you pity me? Julian took a step forward but didn't see the depression in the road ahead and almost fell. I quickly caught him. His hand was twice the size of mine. Fingers long and slender, fair skin, distinct joints, faint blue veins showing under the skin, but his palm was ice cold. Must be from standing in the wind for too long. I turned my hand, grasping his tightly, transmitting warmth to dispel the cold. My eyes curved into crescents, partly it was also because I was too enthusiastic. He smiled too. Then I hope the enthusiastic Miss Jenny here will take good care of this blind patient during this time. Julian went out without a cane, so he could only let me hold his hand and lead him. We walked and talked about random things. I asked curiously, we never met before. How did you notice me? Every time I only looked at him from afar, never spoken. You stand out very much, he laughed. I can easily recognize you in a crowd. Being told that by him, I was a bit shy. I immediately changed the subject, unexpectedly discovering he also graduated from the city's No. 3 high school, the same year as me. I immediately suspected if he was lying again. With looks and personality like his, how could I not notice? Seeing my suspicion, he immediately raised his hand to swear. This time it's real. I couldn't help but joke. Did you change your name or get plastic surgery? If you had surgery, do you want me to touch and see what changed? He spoke naturally and even bent down. My hand, which was holding his, was now placed on his chin, feeling the stubble of a clean shave. I was stunned for a moment, then hurriedly withdrew my hand, looking away, laughing. Is this swapping for a better-looking face? In the courtyard, the osmanthus flowers were blooming again, tiny yellow buds clustering together. He seemed to smell that fragrance too. Do you think it's beautiful? Under the gentle moonlight. I looked at the flowers, they were beautiful, incredibly beautiful. But I quickly realized that he couldn't forget his ex-girlfriend at all. Julian often inadvertently mentioned memories between the two of them. They knew each other from high school, were each other's first love, ran through the first rain of summer together, climbed a mountain at midnight just to watch a sunrise. In winter, he taught her to ski, they volunteered together at a nursing home. Actually, I didn't mind his past, but it seemed he couldn't escape it. Perhaps because he was abandoned, he was afraid always mentioning the past. The past contained everything belonging to them. Even her things. He still kept intact. A single earring was also carefully stored in a box, placed on the highest cabinet shelf. Shouldn't things from the past be thrown away? I asked insinuatingly. Julian didn't understand. Why? I intended to continue, but suddenly realized the relationship between him and me wasn't deep enough to demand he clean up his ex-girlfriend's stuff. I had to swallow my words and stay silent. He mentioned the class reunion this weekend again, asking if I wanted to go with him. Weekend? I was stunned. Suddenly remembered my mother forcing me to go on a blind date this weekend. I had lied to her that I had a boyfriend, but she didn't believe me, refused to give contact info, only gave the location and time, and warned me not to miss the appointment. I had to go once to explain the truth to the other party. Not going, I'm busy. And you? Your eyes aren't healed yet, you can't go either. I was surprised, his eyes hadn't fully recovered. Why did he intend to run around? He sat on the sofa and said softly, afraid you would regret it. Why would I regret his class reunion? I don't know anyone among his classmates. I conveniently put his ex-girlfriend's stuff back in its place. Perhaps nothing would come of it between him and me either. Hearing my unhappy tone, he fumbled to get closer, hugging me tightly from behind. Are you unhappy? I intended to remind him that the past is gone and should be let go, but thinking of his injured eyes, facing such a sensitive and vulnerable patient, I decided to hold back. Wait until he recovered his vision, I would talk about this again. It's nothing. Before I could finish, my lips were sealed by his soft, peach-colored lips, stifling the sound in my throat. My heart raced, and I immediately pushed him away. It wasn't because I didn't like him, but because I liked him too much and didn't want to be treated casually. Did you use this method to coax your ex-girlfriend before too? I was a bit annoyed. No. Julian was flustered, not expecting me to react so strongly. We haven't officially dated yet, so for now, we are just friends. There's a saying, more than friendship, less than love. I still want to wait until he completely lets go of his ex-girlfriend, otherwise, sooner or later, it will become a potential hidden danger. Hearing me say that, he just lowered his head to apologize and asked if I was taking care of him now only out of pity. I laughed. Of course not. It has never been. So he intended to ask further. It was my turn to interrupt him. I've prepared hot water, go take a shower now. He was still very obedient. The sound of running water rushed in the bathroom when suddenly there was a knock on the door. Looking through the peephole, I recognized the person, but we weren't too close. It turned out his relatives came to visit, and there wasn't enough room to sleep, so he came to ask Julian for a place to stay for the night. I thought to myself that since his friend had arrived, I should go home tonight. I kept forgetting to water the flowers on the balcony, and my aloe vera plant had died from neglect, so I asked him to help take care of Julian, who was temporarily blind. Surprisingly, he looked bewildered for a moment. When did Julian go blind? We were just drinking together last night. I was also stunned. Last night I had to work overtime and got home very late. Seeing Julian asleep, I didn't disturb him. I came without notice. Am I disturbing you too? He also realized something was off in the atmosphere and hurriedly found an excuse to retreat. Until Julian finished his shower, he still didn't know someone had come by. The corners of my lips curled up in a sarcastic smile. I was always anxious because of my lies. While he had the ability to lie without blinking, his face not red, his heart not racing. The towel was still hanging on the balcony. I grabbed it and stood in front of the bathroom door. You forgot the towel, I'm coming in. Before this, every time I handed him things, I would turn my face away, not wanting to take advantage of the situation. He must have been laughing inwardly at how easily fooled I was. The sound of water was still rushing, drowning out his gentle voice, but now I found it incredibly piercing. Whoosh! Steam filled the air, the heat rushing to my cheeks. I kept a poker face and looked straight at him. He reached out to take the towel, but I pulled my hand back. Julian hadn't reacted yet, thinking I was teasing him. Jen, stop playing, give it to me, I'll come out to get it myself. I turned my face away and threw the towel onto the sofa. He looked aggrieved. I am a patient, you know. A patient. I laughed coldly. At this point, you still intend to deceive me. I should have realized it sooner, but I kept rationalizing his actions in my heart. I always thought a person like him wouldn't use such methods to deceive me. But the truth was right there. I had sincerely told him everything, yet he continued to lie to me. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. He hurriedly put on his clothes and blocked the door, not letting me leave. Jen. Don't call me. I'm too tired. He didn't know that he often talked in his sleep, calling my name in his dreams, saying don't break up. At that time, I knew the person he was calling was his ex-girlfriend. But I thought it was normal for a sick person to be emotionally unstable. Wait until he recovered, and no longer felt helpless and afraid in the dark, things would be better. But it turned out he was a liar. The blindness, it was all fake. Julian inserted the key and locked the door from the inside. He explained, I did think about telling you the truth. I laughed coldly. Right from the start at the hospital, you faked blindness. After that, you had so many opportunities to explain, but your lies became smoother and smoother, to the point you almost fooled yourself. At the hospital, I really was temporarily blind. He tried to move closer to me. I indifferently took 2 steps back, so at that time he really mistook my voice for his ex-girlfriend's. Everything said afterward was just to deceive me, treating me as a replacement. Hemph, is it that fun? If you miss her, go find her. Why trick me? I continued. I forgot. She left you, you couldn't find her even if you wanted to. My words were both sharp and poisonous. His tears fell, shattering like broken glass. My smile also gradually faded. Want to explain? I'll give you a chance. Say everything you prepared. I still have to go home, I don't have time to waste with you. His lips moved, his voice hoarse. Come to the class reunion with me this weekend. Not a single superfluous explanation. I really had overthought it. His way of keeping me was both foolish and useless. My previous guesses, his silence meant tacit admission. Go for what? To hear you tell stories of your love with your ex-girlfriend. I flung his hand away. I've heard enough. Even if you aren't blind, you must know I've seen her things. Keep them well, don't look for me again, I won't mention it again, not a single word. He swore again, carefully asking, don't go, okay? I'm exhausted, I won't be anyone's replacement anymore, so I decided to make it clear. Open the door, I still have a blind date this weekend. Hearing that sentence, He suddenly became agitated. With whom? In short, not with you. Julian was stunned for a long time before opening the door. I didn't look back, walking straight into the elevator. Just then Sam called to ask me out for a late-night snack. I hadn't even said the address yet when his car pulled up right in front of the apartment complex gate. Jet in. How did you know I was here? Sam huffed coldly. You haven't been home these past few days. I was worried about you. I rolled down the car window. I'm this big already. What is there to worry about? I watched you grow up. I'm your brother. How can I not worry about your affairs? Sam wasn't much older than me, but he always pretended to be mature. Is it related to that kid we met the other day? I didn't answer, just looked out the window. The streetlights turned on again, rays of light weaving into mottled shadows. My vision became blurry and tears just flowed out. Sam sighed helplessly and handed me a tissue. Last time you broke up it wasn't like this. No, besides, this time we hadn't even started dating. He chuckled softly, took a phone call, and then mentioned Mrs. Zhao's situation. Zhao was our neighbor who spent her whole life taking care of her stroke-stricken husband. They had no children, and everyone thought he would be the first to go, but unexpectedly, she left first. I used to hear adults talk about her often. Before her husband had a stroke their relationship was very good. But having to care for a sick person for a lifetime, the bitterness and sorrow only she would understand. Now handling the funeral only neighbors came to help. Sam also had to go back for a trip. After a brief moment of lamenting, he turned back to ask about me. Why are you crying like this? Just got tricked. Started with a lie, ended with a lie being exposed. Sam mocked me. Actually, that guy isn't too bad. If you can't let go you can try again. I immediately became alert. Did you investigate him? Sam didn't have time to answer before the car arrived downstairs at my place. Downstairs, there was a familiar figure, tall and slender. I recognized it was Julian. Getting out of the car, I immediately walked around him to go straight. He quickly blocked me, his face tired, the corners of his eyes red. Jen, love me one more time, okay? Love you so I can be played by you. I gritted my teeth. If you want me to come back, throw away all your ex-girlfriend's stuff, and I'll consider it. He replied. I've put it all away in the storage room. If you don't want to see it, I will never let you see it again. Still can't bear to throw it away, must be hoping she comes back. My words were superfluous and ridiculous, like a clown. I shrugged, showing no mercy. Then there's nothing left to say. On the weekend, I arrived 10 minutes early and waited for another half hour. The blind date didn't even show up. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed the other party wasn't enthusiastic either. Not coming was good, saved the effort of explaining. Just as I was about to get up and leave, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a sneaky face avoiding my gaze. Sitting at the table right behind, a baseball cap pulled low, eyes occasionally glancing towards me. I laughed coldly inside, keeping a calm appearance as I walked up to that person. Julian, is stalking me that fun? Seeing that I recognized him, he didn't hide anymore and took off his cap. People go on blind dates wanting to get married quickly. Before you arrived, I told him you were my fiancée, so he left. He spoke in a light tone as if nothing had happened. This was his true self. I cut him off. Before we were at most ambiguous, not even lovers yet. So what if I pursue you again from the beginning? He didn't give up, still asking patiently. I picked up the glass of water on the table and splashed it straight into his face. Want to turn me into a replacement again? He reacted very quickly but didn't dodge at all, letting the cold water splash onto his face. Yet he just smiled bitterly. Why do you think I see you as a replacement? I looked away, seeing his disheveled state, feeling pity in my heart again. Truly a pitiful man, unlucky for 8 lifetimes. I took back that excess pity. Isn't it clear enough? He stubbornly refused to admit it, as if as long as he didn't say it, he wouldn't have to take responsibility. Jen. Just as Julian and I were in a standoff, someone suddenly called my name. I turned to look in the direction of the voice. It was a woman about my age. I didn't recognize her and couldn't help but ask, "Who are you?" She introduced herself, saying she was my high school classmate, but I still had no impression. At the same time, she also saw Julian standing nearby, joked a sentence, and then was called away by someone else. Julian, I'm saying, you two have been in love for so long, why are you still arguing like back in high school? I frowned, looking at Julian. In high school? Did I know him? A vague image began to appear in my head, but very blurry. I composed myself, looked up at him, trying to find the answer in his eyes. My voice choked up involuntarily. How long have we known each other? Julian ignored the water drops still on his hair, smiling a bitter smile. 13 years. Memories flooded my mind like a torrent. I stared at him for a long time, unable to recover. I remembered the first time we met in high school at the sports meet. The sun shone on the top of his head. Back then, he looked much younger than now. Remembering the pouring rain, the umbrellas at the small school shop were sold out. We ran in the rain together. Remembering the day of the engagement ceremony, I received the health check results and broke up with him. He chased after me demanding an explanation. I only said I was sick and didn't want to become a burden to him. I said that later on, I would gradually forget many things, many people, and gradually wouldn't be able to take care of my own life anymore. I still vaguely remembered when I was small, Mrs. Zhao often pushed her husband out to bask in the sun, the fatigue on her face unable to be hidden. I turned my face away, tears already streaming down. I explained the reason clearly. Why did you still come to find me? He smiled. Because I couldn't bear it, I couldn't let go. I shook my head. It's not worth it. He sighed. When I had the accident, before I passed out, the last thought in my mind was that I wouldn't be able to see you again, truly full of regret. Then I didn't die in the accident. When I woke up, everything before my eyes was pitch black. The doctor said my eyes might never recover. At that moment I thought, what should I do? I won't be able to see you anymore. Fortunately, I survived and my eyes recovered. I can still see you. Looking at you for one more day, I feel I have one more day worth living. When you came to the hospital to visit me, you don't know how happy I was. I was afraid you would remember and use the same excuse as before to deal with me and turn away. I was also afraid you wouldn't remember, forgetting me completely. He pressed his dry lips together tightly. Let's not break up, okay? I paused. But you don't know my condition in the future. Julian reached out to wipe the tear from the corner of my eye. You forgot again, we used to volunteer at the nursing home together. I've prepared myself for every situation in the future. But I didn't want to become a burden to anyone, especially him. I had prepared myself to live alone for the rest of my life, but my mother was always worried, afraid that after she and my father were gone, no one would take care of me. Dad arranged one blind date after another for me. I turned my back and said, it's best not to meet again in the future. Throw away my things too. Without waiting for him to say anything, I left as if fleeing. On the way, I bought a high-speed train ticket home. When I got home, the white canopy at the apartment complex had been taken down. The funeral opera had to be sung for 3 days and 3 nights. But today there was no singing, it seemed everything was done. My mother was a bit surprised to see me back, then a look of dissatisfaction flashed across her face. Mom struggled to find him for you, yet you didn't go meet him. She mentioned the blind date again. I got a headache listening to it, stayed silent for a while, then slowly said, Miss Zhao lived very miserably for the rest of her life. My mother also fell silent, then suddenly burst into tears. As parents, who isn't selfish? My daughter is so young. Why did she have to contract this disease? I could only comfort her. It's not a terminal illness. I will still live for a very long time. My mother regained her spirits after a while and said she would go to the kitchen to make dumplings. I followed her into the kitchen to help. Just then, rapid knocking sounded on the door. Before I could say anything, my mother went to open it. Her voice was full of surprise. Little Gu, why is it you? I bit my lip and looked towards the door, just in time to catch his worried gaze. Instinct made me want to avoid it, but in the end, I had to face it firmly. I came to apologize to Jen. He even bought some gifts on the way, leaving my mother bewildered and not understanding what was happening. Haven't you two not seen each other for a long time? That was only what Jen said, but I wanted to see her. After Julian entered the house, he closed the door and gave the gifts to my mother. My mother suddenly said she had something to do and had to go out for a bit. Now in the old house, only the two of us remained. I thought I made it very clear. I emphasized to him, he was also determined not to back down. I also made it very clear. Why are you so stubborn? I want to marry you. My voice softened. But I'm sick. I will take care of you. But the future is still very long. Exactly, so let's get married. Facing the future alone is truly lonely. He took out the ring I had returned before. Seeing my eyes widen in surprise, he chuckled softly. Time was too tight. I didn't have time to buy you a new ring. Wait until you agree, I'll buy another one. I couldn't hold back my tears. But in the future, I will forget you again and again. He put the ring back on my finger, speaking seriously. I will make you remember me again and again. I might get angry at you for no reason. It's okay, I'm gentle. Just don't say break up anymore, I can't stand it. I might become your burden. When I was blind, I asked if I would become your burden, you said no, so you must also trust me once. I also won't see you as a burden. Finally, I surrendered. Then, I agree. He was so happy he burst into tears. Let's skip the engagement ceremony this time, I'm afraid something unexpected might happen again. Let's just get married straight away. In the future, we would still climb mountains at night just to watch a sunrise. In winter, we would go see ice sculptures and ski together. The future is too long, so cherishing the present is the most important thing. True love means standing by each other's side through vulnerability and fear, rather than pushing someone away to avoid becoming a burden. The story teaches us to embrace the imperfections of life and cherish every fleeting moment in the present. For facing an uncertain future together is far better than facing it alone.